Hi guys, it's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zicree of Space Command, Star Trek, Twilight Zone Companion, Smurfs, He-Man, etc., etc., etc. So, today we're going to talk about Black Panther. Black Panther. Uh, it's earned $400 million and more at the box office. It's doing great. It's the Marvel film. I think everyone on Earth is required to see it. I think that's the law they've just passed. Who knows in Trump's universe? Anyway, but it wouldn't be Trump's universe to see Black Panther, would it, guys? Anyway, not to get political. Not to get political. But let's talk about Black Panther and also, those of you who've been following Mr. Sci-Fi know I recently went to South Africa, so it's very fun to have been in Africa and see a lot of those visual motifs and the headset of Africa in this film, which is a very great melding of the Marvel sensibility with a real world sensibility that I think we need. So let's jump into it. Now, first of all, in terms of my background, I was a big comic book fan as a kid. DC was my favorite, but I also bought Marvel. So Superman was my big thing. I loved Superman, but I was of course reading everything. I was reading, Spider-Man and Fantastic Four and the Avengers and Iron Man and also the Gold Key stuff. I love Magnus Robot Fighter, by the way, and Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom, and so forth. So wish there'd be a Magnus Robot Fighter movie. I would love to write that. So write the studio. Say, Mark Zicree should write that. But getting back to Black Panther. So I'm a child in 1966, and I go and I buy this. Fantastic Four. This is the premiere of Black Panther. And there you see him in his first iteration, which is not that unlike the iteration in the movie, actually. And that comic book is worth more than the 12 cents I paid for it. So, but it's good to see that Black Panther has continued as a character. That same year, 1966, Star Trek debuted. 2 years later, 2001 would be premiered. And the Black Panther Party debuted that same year, 1966, but they were not naming themselves after a comic book character. It's just a coincidence, I'm told. So, and before we get into the specifics of the Black Panther movie, I want to just point out something really interesting, which is, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster created Superman, Bob Kane created Batman, but they're not known for other characters they created. Name one other character any of those guys created. But Stan Lee, amazingly, has created so many iconic characters that have stood the test of time. I met him not long ago. He actually shot on my Space Command sets, and there's some really fun photos of me with Stan Lee, and he signed some comic books to me, though sadly not this Black Panther one, but amazing, and it's great that he's lived long enough to see the longevity of his characters and see them become such huge international box office successes. Because think of it, this one guy in collaboration with Jack Kirby and other artists, Steve Ditko primarily, created Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the Hulk, Thor, on and on. All these characters that are still hugely influential, hugely meaningful to audiences around the world. And Black Panther wasn't even, Stan Lee, aiming for the fences. This was Stan Lee just saying, well, let's come up with a black character. It's time, a black superhero, and he did. The interesting thing about Black Panther, of course, is that unlike the other characters, he's not based in the United States. He's based in Africa, and that's actually a pretty cool thing. So let's talk about this film. Many of you will know a lot of the details I'm about to talk about. Ryan Coogler, of course, directed it, was writer on it. He did Creed. He did Fruitvale Station. He brought aboard his actor Michael B. Jordan, who starred in those films. Interestingly enough, Michael B. Jordan is going to be playing Montag in a TV movie of Fahrenheit 451, written and directed by the director who did 99 Homes, which Michael Shannon starred in, a very good indie film, and Michael Shannon will be playing Beatty, the firehouse captain, and it should be a very interesting adaptation. I'm hoping it'll be great. By the way, I also love the 1960s film, I think it's also 1966 or 67, that Francois Truffaut directed. Ray Bradbury, who was my mentor, really loved that film, and I do too, for all of its weaknesses, but it has many, many strengths. I urge you to look at it. But back to Black Panther. So Ryan Coogler, we have Chadwick Boseman playing the Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan playing the villain, Killmonger, who's trying to be king of that same country. Letitia Wright is Chadwick Boseman's the Black Panther's sister. She's terrific in the role. There are many very strong female roles in this film, and Lupita Nyong'o is great in it. Daniel Kaluuya. I mean, it has a wonderful cast, and again, as everyone's been pointing out, primarily African Americans and African British actors, etc., and but black actors. Let's put it that way. And it has a black sensibility, and and the art department is a black woman headed up the production design, a black female. I think there's a female cinematographer who's currently nominated for the first Oscar for a female cinematographer. Amazing, 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 amazing all round. And the film really works. It's a very entertaining film, a very fun film, and the villain is terrific. He's not kind of cookie cutter like so many other villains in superhero films tend to be. Many hero films have very good actors playing the villains, but except for the Joker in The Dark Knight, they're generally not very good. They're not very memorable, and usually it's the bad guys that want to conquer the earth, or they've got some MacGuffin, Maltese Falcon kind of thing, a jewel or whatever that they're trying to get. It's very meaningless in terms of the modern real world. But in Black Panther, the notion is very important and very significant to the real world, which is this. The Black Panther is king of a mythical African country with an advanced technology, and the issue is, they've kept themselves secret and their technology secret for hundreds of years. Do they reach out to the suffering people of the world, particularly the black people of the world who are suffering, the people of color who are suffering, and do they take action to help the world with what they have? And for all of us in the industrialized world, and for all of us who are doing well, the question is, do we just enjoy the fruits of our society, the blessings that we have bestowed on us, or do we share with others? Do we reach out to others? Do we help others? And I think the answer is a very important one in our modern world. But then Black Panther posits a very interesting question, which is, if you decide to help, how do you help? And so the villain wants to arm the world and basically create more guerrilla insurgencies and spread death and dying and brutality and violence, which many of our countries do. I mean, America is a huge arms dealer and has spread great death and destruction around the world. Whatever your politics, and whatever the rationale for doing this, certainly we've been involved in wars almost nonstop since World War II, and both wars that we were above board with, and other wars where we were, sending weapons and so forth. But so the villain wants to do that. And whether or not it's justified, the alternative, which our hero wants to do, is instead fund humanitarian aid, which again, if you look at America, these are the two faces of America: financing wars, financing weapons, or selling weapons, or alternatively humanitarian aid, and helping others with schools, with hospitals, with doctors, with education, with all sorts of things that make the world better, clean water, etc. So this is the tension in the film, and I think it's a real world tension. I think it's a judgment that all of us have to come to if we're going to take action or not, and if so, what action, and whether we're going to be making the world a better place or a worse place. And these are very important issues. And so I think it has a meaningful message and a meaningful story. Plus, it's inclusive. The women characters are all strong. They're all warriors. They're all brilliant. They're doing things that are worthwhile. They're very much as strong characters as the lead. And again, I want to sing out Michael B. Jordan. He's a wonderful villain, wonderfully written, wonderfully acted. I'm very eager to see his Montag in Fahrenheit 451, and the action stuff is good. The VFX are good. Visual design is good. Everything works. And if it makes you want to go to Africa and check out Africa, I urge you to do so. It's an amazing place, and so that's sort of my little 2 cents on Black Panther. Obviously, there's going to be more Black Panther movies. Maybe there'll even be a movie spin-off of the sister, who's a brilliant, inventor and fun character, and sassy and smart and funny, and I think a lot of people would love to see a movie just with her. And so that's it's going to be great. It's going to be very interesting to see where Ryan Coogler goes as an artist. And I think all of the people in this film have something to be proud of. And I think it's amazing how Marvel has continued to go from strength to strength to strength, because their films, I'm not a big superhero movie fan. I go to them, I enjoy them, but they aren't my favorite films. They aren't films that I rush out to buy the Blu-ray or the DVD when it comes out. Usually, for most of these movies, once is plenty for me, and I do see many of them as being very, very similar, entertaining but disposable. But I think Black Panther is a cut above that, and I applaud Marvel for taking these choices, making these choices, and taking these chances, because nothing is a sure thing, and this certainly wasn't a sure thing going in. The common wisdom is that movies with black protagonists do not do well overseas. This clearly will be an exception to that rule. And again, a lot of what's common wisdom isn't really wisdom. It's just what people, usually white people, think, giving their justification for not doing films of color. And hopefully this will start to really loosen that up. We'll see how Wrinkle in Time does. That's, Ava DuVernay's directing that. Oprah Winfrey's in it. It has a child of color in the lead, and a young woman, a girl, and a teenage girl, and we'll see if that's good. I don't know. But again, the problem with Hollywood wisdom is when a movie tanks, they don't say, well, that just wasn't a very good movie, or that's the way it goes. Most films don't succeed. They say, oh, well, the audience doesn't want to see people of color. They draw, or they don't want to see westerns, or they don't want to see, pirate films or whatever. When really people just don't want to see bad movies, and so again. Hollywood draws the wrong lesson. So anyway, so that's sort of it for now. Oh, and by the way, you watch, subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi. I'm posting about once a week or more, and I'll be doing another one about Space Command soon and all sorts of stuff. But you notice behind me, I often switch up some of these books, just so you can sort of see a little bit of great science fiction of the previous decades. But for those now, earlier in the previous Mr. Sci-Fi, I mentioned that the young man in the shirt behind me was Philip K. Dick before he got the beard and the belly and was known as a middle-aged guy. The other character, I've just put this other author behind me, the one who's in blue, and that's a first edition of Cat's Cradle, and that's Kurt Vonnegut before he had the mustache and the Mark Twain hair, and so that's kind of fun to see what he looked like under all that hair. Handsome man, both of them are good-looking guys. So anyway, so that's it for now. Subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi. If you're interested in buying shares in Space Command, you can email me. Those are $7,500, or you can pledge on Patreon to keep this going and the other things I'm doing going. And we'll talk soon. And thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.